Welcome to Road to Fire. Now let's review our August budget outline. We create our next month's budget on the last week of the current month to plan for the future month. We use the zero-based budget method, which really has been working well for us in the last year and a half. Essentially, the zero-based budget is a way of budgeting where your income minus your expenses equals zero. With the zero-based budget, you have to make sure that your expenses match all of your income coming in during that given month. The main thing is to have your income and your expenses, including your savings plan, equal out to zero. For us, it doesn't exactly equal out to zero, as I always put a little bit of a buffer, maybe $100 or $200 given in the month, because we've never really hit our budget 100%, so a buffer is key for us to make sure we're on track. I absolutely love budgeting, so I budget and look at our financials every single week, and I make sure that we stay up to date on our expenses and kind of track it throughout the month. Then I have a closeout meeting with my husband where he has his inputs and we kind of review how things went for the given month. All right, let's get into our August budget. I will share our real numbers as of today and what our expected income and expected expenses will be. Okay, this is our August income report. And so August is a normal pay month for us. If you've watched our other budget video for the month of July, you would know that we had 3 pay periods in July, which was amazing, but we're back to our traditional monthly pay. You will see that we have a monthly income of about $12,000, which is after our 401k contributions. I contribute about 9% to my company's match, and my husband contributes about 4%. And that's about $1,250 per pay period that we're putting into our individual 401k programs with our employers. So this is our total income. As you can see, we are lacking diversity in our income, which is a main thing we're focusing on in the next 6 to 12 months. So let's get into the details. For our W-2, which represents about 97% of our income, that's about $11,372. So very traditional for what we expect every month. So we don't anticipate having any bonuses this month, so that's coming in at zero. And for passive income, we don't expect to have any Google AdSense revenues from our blogs, as we put a couple of those on hold. We will be traveling this month, so I'll be drawing from our travel sinking accounts, which will explain the additional $400 I have here. So in total, our income will be just shy of $12,000, and we are heavily looking for some additional passive income in the next coming months. So now let's look over our expected expenses. Again, this is what we plan to spend in these given buckets. We adjust mid-month, and then we kind of have a closeout at the end of the month. So here's our August expense report. So I love looking at this to give me a little bit of a visual of where our money is going. As I spoke earlier, our income doesn't necessarily meet our expenses 100%. I always put a little bit of a buffer so you can see that it's slightly off as you look at our expenses. Because to be completely honest, we've never hit our budget 100%. We've always had some hiccups here or there. So it's always good to have a little bit of a wiggle room so you're not drawing from savings to pay for expenses. We are looking to have a savings rate over 60%, but as you can see right now, it's 41%, so it's a little bit below where we would like to be. We're averaging about 50% year to date. I'll get into the details in a second, but I really love looking at this chart to just give me a visual of where my top 5 expenses are that represent about 80% of all of my expenses. So this just gives me a high-level view of where my money's going. In detail, our top 5 ones that I really focus on here, our biggest quote-unquote expense is savings, and that's at $4,820. Again, savings is not really an expense, it's just line items here as you do the zero-based budget method. Our second and next biggest expense is our rent, and so $1,800, which is fixed. Obviously, we live in the Midwest, so this is relatively okay, but we also live in a higher income area because of my son's school and where I work, so it's definitely a little bit higher than the average in this state. I have talked so much about our favorite cars, but our third biggest expense are our cars, which we're working heavily to pay off. So the $1,200 here doesn't represent our minimum payments, it's additional payments we're putting on top of this to kind of pay off our cars really quickly. Also, we have a 3-year-old, and so he's currently in school for 2 days a week, and plus he has private swim lessons right now that costs us a little bit over $1,100. So this expense used to be our largest expense. He used to be in school 5 days a week, and now he's adjusted to a 2 days a week program, which is saved of over $1,000 a month. So happy to see that decrease and go down, but there's still rooms for opportunity to kind of adjust and see if there's more affordable programs in our area. So we are Christians and we pay 10% to tithe to our churches and our charities every single year. Again, the $500 you see here doesn't equate to an exact 10%. Obviously, because 10% would be closer to $1,100. But at the end of the year, we always top off and figure out what we're lacking or missing in our overall tithing budget, because we receive a lot of our bonuses in the Thanksgiving, Christmas time frame. That's when we usually do a lot of our giving at the end of the year. Just to highlight, these top 5 expenses, including savings, quote unquote expenses, represent 80% of our income and where our money goes. And so it's very important for me to kind of manage that. I live and die by the 80-20 rule. I've already said that. And so I really focused on how to manage and decrease these 5 expenses outside of savings. So if you look a little lower, we have traveling. That will be coming from our sinking funds. We will be going back home to attend my niece's birthday, and so we're anticipated to have about $400. Obviously, we're not flying, so this will be road trip cost. Our grocery bill has been back down to normal pre-COVID numbers, so I'm excited to get this back at the $300 range in comparison to the $400, $500, and the $600 we had during the first couple of months of COVID. So happy to be able to have that $100 per person average going on for us. Our restaurant budget is around $250. It's up a little bit higher, but because we're going to be road tripping home, which will be about 6.5, 7 hours, we are definitely going to be stopping to eat 2 or 3 times, especially with a toddler. So we anticipate spending a little bit more money than usual on restaurants. For our business expense, this is really fixed month over month. This is for our web hosting and our platforms that we use, as well as our subscriptions. It stays this amount. Sometimes we may get some discounts based on promos that we find, but it's usually $250 every single month. Our utilities are relatively fixed. They haven't really adjusted, $188 here, and that includes our internet, our gas, and electricity. We're in a 3-bedroom apartment, so this is relatively low, as it's nothing compared to what it would be if you're living in a house. So again, these additional 5 expenses represent about 12%, and I then have this as my secondary lens. I focus on the top 5, then I focus on the second 5, and the next remaining expenses I kind of just swag at because they only represent 8% of my total expenses. Car insurance, again, this is for both of our cars. We have a really great deal with Progressive. We then have our phone bill with Sprint. That stays fixed, $165 every single month. Our gas, if you know, we have an electric car and we have a traditional Audi, and that's about $155. It's a little bit higher because we're road tripping. It's usually sub 100, but we increase it because we're going to be on the road more than usual. Household, so that's toiletries, cleaning products, hand sanitizer, hand soaps, that's $100. I don't think we're going to hit that because we just did a big dump in July. Gifts, I am going to my niece's birthday party, so I'm probably going to grab her some few fun things from Target. For us, entertainment at $50, that is more so our Netflix. We don't pay for our Hulu because that comes with Sprint. And then we also have, sometimes we watch a movie and we pay for that through iTunes or through our Apple TV. And then apparel, that's mainly for my son. He's growing and he gets larger. We don't really buy any clothes. We're not really going anywhere, and we have a lot of clothes already, so we really don't focus on apparel or any of those items. So that kind of makes up our total expenses for this month. We're really hoping to hit our goal of being within the 95-98% of accuracy, so we'll see how that goes. It's always a game for us every single month. So excited to see how our mid-month check-in will be. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.